Your Honor, case number 445 on the calendar in the matter of Campbell versus Noguera. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Ms. Campbell, you and Mr. Noguera lived together for a period of time. You were both signatories on a lease.
At one moment in time.
Well, it was more than a moment.
Yes.
According to your complaint, he asked you to leave the apartment. You did leave. And you left after you paid that month's rent. So you want that portion of the rent back that you paid.
Correct.
And in addition, since Mr. Noguera asked you to leave, and you claim that he said he would take care of it, his cousin or somebody, your uncle, was going to move in, and did move in to the apartment, that you should be off the hook for the rest of the rent. Mr. Noguera left owing rent on the apartment. Is that right, sir?
That's correct.
And according to you, the landlord is coming after you for the money.
Both of us, yes.
Let me see the notification from the landlord.
Thank you.
Thank you.
When did you move in together?
About the middle of April of last year.
And when did you move out?
The beginning of June of last year.
Why did you move out?
We had broken up and I was forced to move out. I was kicked out.
What do you mean you broke up and you were forced to move out?
I had came home. He was very disgruntled with me, upset, and he kicked me out.
Well, what did he say?
He basically said that he didn't want me in his house and in his bed, which it was all partially mine too. And the next morning I grabbed my stuff as much as I could and left.
Is that right?
Yeah, but not exactly, Judge. That's not exactly the way everything went down.
Is it close?
It's close, yes.
So you told her you didn't want her around anymore?
No. It was a mutual thing. You know what I mean? We had been together for a while, and she had been going through some financial problems, and I had started to feel like I was raising her almost, like I was her dad. You know what I mean? I was teaching her a lot of things, and I felt like she was trying to...
I'm not interested.
Play house with me.
Listen to me. I'm not interested. Did you ask her to leave?
I thought it would be a good idea if she left, and she agreed.
Don't play with me. Don't play with me. I'm just asking you. You didn't kick her out. You didn't punch her.
No, exactly.
I'm just asking you. Did you ask her to leave?
Yeah, I thought yes, I did.
And did you, in fact, tell her, Mr. Noguera, that your uncle was going to move in?
My uncle was planning to move in to help me with my share of the rent.
No, Mr. Noguera, that's stupid.
That's not
Let me explain. That's stupid.
I mean, we agreed upon her leaving. When the time that it's my responsibility...
Listen to me very carefully.
To pay for the rent.
Listen to me very carefully.
Okay,
before you say anything that's going to make you look stupid.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I mean, because you don't appear to be a really stupid man.
Thank you. I'd appreciate it.
I said you don't appear to be a really stupid man, Mr. Noguera. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to prove me right.
Okay.
Two people rent an apartment together, and each one of them is paying half the rent. One person says, I don't think it's a good idea that we live together anymore. I think you should leave. And my uncle is going to be moving in. Would you think, sir, that a reasonable person would assume that the rent that your uncle pays would go towards your half of the rent?
Yes, a reasonable
yes.
person.
I just wanted to make sure.
Okay.
You see how smart you're getting? Who are you?
I'm the uncle.
You get it, don't you?
Yes, ma'am.
Right?
On his moving in, being that her name was still on the lease, isn't it her responsibility to still pay her rent?
I asked the question. Shut quiet.
Yes or no?
Mr. Noguera,
Okay,
listen to me carefully, sir.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Right.
Excuse me.
I ask the questions.
I'm sorry.
I don't answer the questions.
I apologize.
What I'm telling you, sir, is between the two of you and the landlord, you're still responsible, both of you, still responsible, individually and jointly. So we can come after both of you.
Right.
Right? But I assume that he is serious because he keeps sending you these nasty letters. Has anybody gotten served with a letter from an attorney?
I do have a actually money judgment and a notice to vacate that was canceled.
May I see it? And on what basis was it canceled, madam?
It was canceled because he moved out the day prior to it actually being served.
I see. So this was a dispossess. They just wanted him out because he hadn't been paying rent. Now, why hadn't you been paying rent, Mr. Noguera?
Well, after she left, the burden of the rent was so overwhelming for me I couldn't pay it anymore. You know what I mean? He had moved in to help me with the rent and help us out, but with my work, I'm in construction, so it started falling off a little bit, and I couldn't afford it anymore. So I didn't have anywhere to go, and I had to be there not paying rent. I realized that that's a big problem with my apartments and stuff, so I had to move, and I got my stuff together when I could, and I did leave at that time.
You want to say anything?
No, I don't.
That's a real good idea.
I think.
And who is this?
That's my wife.
And when did she move in?
She didn't move in.
When did she come to stay?
She didn't come to stay.
When did she sleep there?
Well, I don't know. Okay.
When did she sleep there?
She had never. Well, she came over and she would hang out with me, but she never moved in or brought her stuff over.
Mr. Noguera, you are an amoral person who thinks that you can get along with a glib tongue and a smile. I got news for you, sir. I am not impressed. I don't find you either attractive or adorable.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Maybe you had bad upbringing. Maybe your parents didn't know how to raise you.
My parents are excellent parents.
Then they are disappointed in you. Because either you didn't learn the lessons or they didn't teach them to you. Which one is it?
And later today,
Dogs grabbed a hold of the chicken and was shaking it and chewing on it, and I screamed and yelled to get him to leave.
Then I got my shoes on and grabbed the gun and went outside.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Nina Campbell says her ex-boyfriend, Orlando Noguera, kicked her out of their shared apartment. Now she is liable for the lease.
I find what you're doing here today really reprehensible. You're trying to make excuses for conduct that you can't excuse. You did the wrong thing. You stiffed the landlord for no reason other than the fact you had your uncle living with you. Between the two of you, you looked as if you went out at 8 o'clock in the morning from 8 to 8, collected cans and turned them in. You could collect enough money. You look as if neither one of you has missed a meal in a very long time. You stiffed the landlord. You try to put the burden, I'm speaking, you try to put the burden on your former girlfriend of this, which is really your responsibility. It is your responsibility, and you come here with a glib attitude and think that I'm going to find you adorable. Well, quite frankly, sir, I don't. I think that if you came here and said, listen, I fell on hard times, I didn't have the money, I know it's the wrong thing to do, I didn't do the right thing, then I would say, okay, he's not a bum. But when you ask her to leave, and she doesn't want to live in this apartment with you anymore, you're not getting along, you asked her to leave. I'm speaking.
Okay.
She left. She did what you asked for. You moved somebody else in. You moved your uncle. Then for a period of time, your now wife was living with you.
She was never living with us.
Sir, I guarantee you that there were nights that she stayed over.
Well, because she stayed over doesn't mean she was living there.
You're doing it again. You're doing it again. Don't you get it? You treated it as your apartment, and you didn't pay rent. You stiffed the landlord, and you forced him to go to court and spend legal fees, spend money, in order to get you out of the apartment, because that's a scam. What do you do for a living?
I'm in construction. I do windows and doors.
You work for a company?
That's correct.
You get paid every week?
Definitely.
You like to get paid every week?
It's my favorite part.
Good. You're a smart aleck. But I'm going to tell you, you wouldn't like it if you worked for a week and your boss decided not to pay you. And if you worked for 2 weeks and your boss decided not to pay you, I guarantee you, you and your uncle over here would be on a picket line outside alleging lots of things. Well, that's the way your landlord makes money. Your landlord is in construction, and his construction is he has apartments that he rents to people who use his property, and he expects to get paid, just like you expect to get paid for your work. And when you don't do that, when you're just a wise guy, maybe you've had bad upbringing, maybe your parents didn't know how to raise you.
My parents are excellent parents.
I want to tell you something, sir. Then they are disappointed in you. Well, because either you didn't learn the lesson, or they didn't teach them to you. It could only be either one of two things. Either they didn't teach them to you, which makes them bad parents, or you didn't learn them. Which one is it? Could only be those two things, sir.
Okay.
Either you didn't learn them.
It's that I didn't learn.
Right. You didn't learn them. So what you have to do is you have to assume responsibility. And as soon as I see a lawsuit directed against either one of you for what is owed on this lease, I'm going to enter a judgment against you for the full amount. Do I make myself clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Because that's your responsibility. You can't grow up expecting somebody else to take care of you. Her, the landlord, your uncle, somebody else, your wife, whatever. You work?
Yes, I do.
Good. You better hold on to your job. You got my judgment?
Clear.
That's all.
All right, excuse. You may step out.
We moved into the place and it felt like she was playing house.
I think it was kind of funny because I was not home a lot because I was working a full-time job and going to school. I had 14-hour days. I had no time for home.
She stayed out all night till about 4 in the morning, wants to crawl into bed next to me. I'm not going to have that. No way.
That was the one moment in time. It was the night that we broke up that I came home late because I just needed to get out.
Very bad experience and a lesson learned.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Davis versus Choris. Step forward, please.
Homemaker Catherine Davis is suing her neighbor, airline pilot Philip Choris, for the cost of a chicken and for pain and suffering. Catherine says Philip's dogs got into her yard and attacked her pet hen.
Miss Davis, I assume that you and the defendant are neighbors. Is that right?
Yes.
And you live in a rural community?
Yes.
Where is that?
In Gorham, Maine.
How large a property do you have?
About 7 acres.
And you keep chickens?
4 of them.
Any other animals?
A rabbit and a cat.
Mr. Soros, how large a property do you have, sir?
A little over 1 acre, Your Honor.
And you have dogs?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of dogs do you have?
I have a chocolate lab and a black lab.
Is your property fenced?
No, Your Honor.
According to your complaint, Miss Davis, Mr. Soros's 2 dogs somehow found their way onto your property and attacked one of your hens, leaving it practically dead.
Practically.
Very injured. And as a result of that, your father shot the hen to put it out of its misery, and you want Mr. Soros to compensate you not only for the hen, but also for the trauma because your daughter witnessed this attack on the hen. And Mr. Soros has 2 defenses. One, that his dogs didn't kill your hen, your father did. And the second is, that it was an accident because his dogs just got out when he opened the garage door. You have any other defenses that you want me to hear, Mr. Soros?
Yes, Your Honor. I question the nature of the attack, being that within 45 seconds to a minute following Miss Davis's screams, I was in her yard, and I witnessed the chicken entirely intact, unbloodied, making what I would consider normal chicken noises.
Okay.
Didn't take just 1 shot,
Here we
but
go.
2 shots to kill it, Your Honor.
Okay. So, Miss Davis, when did this happen?
Wednesday, October 20th, 2004.
Ever had any difficulty with each other before?
No, but his dogs have been in my yard before.
Did you ever discuss that with him?
No, I didn't know where they belonged.
So when you saw his dogs in the yard, what did you do?
Usually I just shoot them away. But this time they didn't want to leave.
Okay, tell me what you observed.
We were standing in a window, looking out the window at some deer, and all of a sudden 2 dogs come running in the yard, so I ran outside to scare them away. The dogs grabbed a hold of the chicken and was shaking it and chewing on it, and I screamed and yelled to get them to leave. Next thing I know, Mr. Soros is standing in the bushes wanting to know what was going on, and I asked him if those were his dogs several times, and he wouldn't admit that they were.
Can I see a photograph, please?
There's also one of my live ones. They look a little different.
Your Honor, I'd like to please note that the photograph is on the back deck, and that when I saw the chicken, it was alive and well, sitting atop an egg at the back of the yard.
No, actually the egg was on the side of it.
The chicken was sitting on an egg.
Just a second, don't argue with him. He's going to have a chance. He doesn't know that yet, but he's going to have a chance. Well, I'd like to hear from your father.
Okay.
Your last name is?
Trainer.
Mr. Triner, tell me what you observed on the 20th of October.
We were looking out the bedroom window watching the couple of deer that were in the backyard, and I noticed the dogs, and I told Kathy the dogs were out there. She got her shoes on and left to go outside, and I got my shoes on and grabbed the gun and went outside. And when we got out there, the dogs had pretty well tore the chicken up.
What do you mean by that?
Well, the chicken's neck was broke. The egg which the chicken had laid that day was out on the ground. And the chicken was suffering, so I shot it.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to let you stay seated, okay? You think your grandpa and your mom told the story enough?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, now I'll hear you. How did your dogs get out?
Well, I let them out, Your Honor. I was in the backyard playing with my dogs and my son, and I went into the garage for a moment to get something off the workbench, and I heard screaming from the backyard, so I immediately ran towards the woods that separated my yard from Miss Davis's, at which time my 2 dogs came running from the woods, so I could assume that they had been in her yard. I grabbed them by the collar and put them in the fenced portion of my yard and scooped up my son and put him in the house. Then I immediately ran into Miss Davis's yard, and she was standing next to a chicken, and she was visibly upset and screaming. And I looked down at the chicken, and it was sitting with its wings folded, apparently in its nest, and making normal chicken sounds. And she was very upset. Her father came over with a high-powered air rifle and shot it in the back of the neck at point-blank range. The chicken was still alive after the first shot, so I question how injured it may have been. Secondly, he cocked the rifle again, shot it a second time.
Why do you think he did that? Do you think that he's some sort of sadist, sir?
I don't think he's trained in veterinary medicine, and the decision to put an animal down is not one that anybody can make.
How much do your dogs weigh, sir?
Each about 75 pounds.
And how much did the hen weigh, do you think?
2 or 3 pounds.
And you think that if they just picked it up in their mouth and say that they weren't looking to hurt the hen, they were just looking to play with it?
Well, if
sending it back and forth.
If they did that, Your Honor, they're very courteous dogs because they set it right back down on the egg.
You are responsible. And what you have to say is, I assume that responsibility. Because this gentleman did not shoot this hen out of sport. He may have been mistaken when he believed that the hen was so seriously injured that it could not have recovered. And maybe he was wrong when he said that the hen's neck was broken. That's still your fault.
Your Honor.
That's still, listen to me, that's still your fault. But for your irresponsibility, it wouldn't have happened. So you better be careful with your dogs. Because if instead of the hen, the dogs went over and decided to play with her daughter and inadvertently bit her because she was flailing her arms because she was frightened, that wouldn't be her fault. That would be your dog's fault. That would be your fault.
My dogs have no history of such behavior, Your Honor. If they had,
you're a dumb man. You are really a dumb man. You're not getting my message. You are so fixed in your position that you're not getting my message. What do you do for a living?
I'm a pilot.
Well, maybe that's why you're fixed, because you have to follow instructions, and if you don't follow instructions and veer off course to the letter, you can cause a great deal of damage. You're also supposed to use common sense as a pilot. You're suing for $4,500. That's outrageous. But Mr. Soros has to get the message. Judging for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,500. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat.
Ms. Krantz, this is your former husband, and according to your complaint, subsequent to your divorce, you made 2 loans to him.
Yes, ma'am.
Both were for court fines or tickets or whatever.
Yes, ma'am.
And neither of those loans have been repaid.
No, ma'am.
The defendant says that you did, in fact, advance him the money in form of a loan, and he paid you back. And he says that the second chunk of money that you gave him to pay tickets or something so that he could get his license back was just a gift, and he is also prepared to establish that. So, when were you married and when were you divorced, Ms. Krantz?
We were married on October the 10th of 2003.
And when were you divorced?
The divorce papers are stated April the 27th of 2004.
And when was the first loan?
June the 21st of 2004. And I do have where he signed a note that he would pay me back the money.
Okay, I'd like to see it.
Okay. Also attached with that is the way that I proceeded to get the money. He was in jail at the time for not paying fines and restitutions.
Just a second.
Things
One second. Shh. Okay, were you in jail in June of 2004?
Most definitely.
When did you get out of jail?
Like the beginning of July. She came and posted a bond for me. It was a $2,200 cash bond.
And you signed this that you owe her $23.33.
Correct.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
With regard to that, you say you paid her back.
Yes, ma'am.
How come you called your former wife for the money? You were divorced?
We were planning on trying to work things out. We've been talking on the phone while I was in jail. I would have been there probably 4 years if I had not made that bond. She was pretty much the only person I knew that would help me.
Okay. So you were pretty desperate.
It was probably more than desperate. I mean, I wanted to be with her and wanted to, be a family again. But I mean, yeah, she was the only place.
What were you in jail for, sir?
I had stolen some things, and I had violated my probation for that by not paying my fines and court costs and all that.
Now, show me, Mr. Luberspeck, that you paid her back.
What I have is my check stubs that my bosses wrote me for that period of time, and I have my supervisor at the job that was there on 2 occasions. She came and personally got my check. You know, I signed it and she got it. And then when I went back to jail, she picked up my last paycheck, and he can testify that he was there and saw that.
Your Honor, I will state that when we were together, he would contribute to bills, but certainly never repaying any of the money that I had loaned him.
Did you ever go and get money from his supervisor?
There was one occasion where I picked up a paycheck. After he had went to jail in August, I picked up an $84 paycheck from his job. He
Only one paycheck?
Yes, ma'am.
It's the only time you went?
Yes, ma'am.
Step up. Tell me your name.
Nebojša Kovacevic.
What kind of work do you do?
Construction.
Were you his supervisor?
Yes, at that time.
Tell me what you know about these paychecks.
I know at 2 occasions that she came on Fridays and he signed the checks, the paychecks, and gave it to her. And the last, when he went to jail, the last paycheck, my brother gave it out to her because he called from jail and told me to give her the last check.
Now, what about the 2 other times that you say you saw him?
Yes, I saw him sign the paycheck and hand it to her.
Where were you living at the time, sir?
When I got the loan, I got out of jail, moved directly in with Ms. Krantz.
How long did you live with her?
It was not very long. You know.
Tell me how long. When did you get out of jail? You got out of jail
it was
in
a month at the longest.
July?
Yes, ma'am, and in August I was back in jail, so it was about 3 weeks.
I made the loan for him on June the 21st. I paid his fines and restitutions to get him out of jail. He could not get out of jail until they were paid.
He was
the very
not,
next
just
day,
a second, he was not living with you at the time?
No, ma'am, he was in jail.
Okay, so then he got out of jail.
And he was arrested for domestic assault the very next day.
On who?
On me.
How long did he live with you after that?
From the time that I made the loan to him to the time that he moved out of my home completely was, I say, about a month, maybe.
And how much money do you claim you gave her, sir, in your paychecks?
Ma'am, since I've known her...
No, I don't care since you know her. I'm talking about for that 1 month.
Every dime it says I made. Since I've known her, I've signed every paycheck I've ever made, and she has deposited in her account.
Listen to me. You're not following what I'm saying to you.
$2,308. And after I was arrested for domestic assault, my boss came and bonded me out, and I went and stayed with him.
Did he sign his checks over to you, and did they go into a joint account?
No, ma'am. I had my own personal private account. Thomas never was on my account. He was not able to be on my account.
No, that's not what I asked.
Okay. No, ma'am, he did not. No.
What kind of work do you do?
I am a stay-at-home mother. I have a special education child, and I stay at home.
Well, who supports your family?
I get a Social Security check for my son's disability, and I also get alimony from my first 13-year marriage.
Okay. Let me hear about the next loan that you allegedly made to him.
Mr. Luberspeck got out of jail December the 13th of 2004.
Was that for domestic violence?
It was for a probation violation because of the domestic violence.
Against her?
Correct.
Go ahead.
Mr. Luberspeck got out of jail on December the 13th, in which he called me, stated that he had nowhere to stay, nowhere to go. He wanted to come back home. I allowed that to happen. I know that he owed me money from before. I figured if I didn't let him come back home and help him...
Don't even say that. You said that in your complaint.
Well, it was...
I don't believe it. When he came back home, did he sleep with you in your bed?
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, it was...
Shut! That's not to give him a place to stay. Giving him a place to stay is that he has a pillow and you go sleep on the couch. Letting him come home and share your bed is a totally different thing, Miss Krantz. You know it and I know it.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
I was just in love, and I was
Well, then you
foolish.
have to say that, you know. I mean, that's clear. You were in love with him?
And I was foolish.
Well, then why are you bothering me?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
My daughter was not with me. She had chose to live with her father.
Is she back now?
No, we are just now establishing our relationship together.
It's what happens when you fall in love with a bum.
And later today,
I was trying to get out of the vacation because I didn't want to be around any negative influences where I know that things are going on.
So why did you go?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Shelley Krantz says her ex-husband, Thomas Lupersbeck, owes for 2 loans to pay court fines and restitution. Shelley also says Thomas is an abuser.
Okay, you were foolish, you were in love, you gave him money.
I did.
Then you had a fight, and he probably knocked you around, and you had him incarcerated, and then he was violated again, and then as soon as he got out of jail, you let him come back again in December to your home where you have children, where children are supposed to be peaceful and live in a peaceful, quiet environment.
At that time, my daughter was not with me. She had chose to live with her father because of the things that had happened between Mr. Lupersbeck and I.
Is she back now?
No, we are just now establishing our relationship together.
Well, that's what happens. It's what happens when you fall in love with a bum. Fall in love with a bum, you can lose your whole family.
I realize that.
That would be you.
No, it wouldn't.
You may have a seat, sir. Yeah,
Sure.
that would be you.
Ma'am, I've worked every day since I've met this lady, and I was sleeping in my car before we were married and giving her my paycheck. I don't consider that being a bum so that her and her family can eat.
Just a second, sir. How did she get involved with the arrest that brought you 2 probation violations? Who'd you steal from her?
No, sir, ma'am. It was an employer that was refusing to pay me.
You mean an employer that was refusing to pay you? A judge wouldn't listen to you when you were trying to get your money from that employer? Look at you, Mr. Luperchik. You can't even keep a straight face.
I didn't even try to go through a court. I just took what I felt he owed me.
Did that ever happen before, Mr. Lupersbeck?
No, ma'am.
Never were arrested before?
Yes, ma'am.
She didn't have anything to do with that, did she?
Not that I know of.
Okay. So how many times in total, I want you to think. How old are you?
26.
26. So you haven't had that long a life. How many times have you been arrested? Let's say more than 5?
15.
15. So you've been arrested 15 times. And how many times was she involved?
Twice.
Twice out of 50. So 13 times she was not. That makes you a bum.
Sure.
Just because you try to pay your own way and pay a little rent money doesn't make you not a bum. Somebody who's 26 years old has been arrested 15 times is a bum. That's what my grandmother would say.
She's entitled to her opinion.
It's my opinion's the only one who counts here.
Your Honor,
Listen to me, Ms. Krantz. Give me the second loan. He came out of jail in December of 2004. You took him back home. I assume it was at that point your daughter went to your ex-husband or before?
no, ma'am, that was in June.
In June of 2004?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, so she had enough of him 6 months before.
Yes, ma'am.
So now let's fast forward to December 2004. Go ahead.
He came home. He was placed on intensive state probation. Part of his probation was that he was to get his license back and retain a job. So he asked if I would help him get his license reinstated. He promised me several times that if I paid this for him, that he would pay me back. He informed me that there were 2 tickets that he had to get paid.
All right, so you gave him how much, $800?
It was over $800.
All right, and then what happened after the 15?
Shortly thereafter, we began to argue. Thomas still had a problem finding a job.
And?
We began to argue because he wouldn't get a job and he wouldn't pay me back the money that he owed me.
Is that what you were arguing about?
We were arguing because that's what we do. I guess that was one of the topics of conversation, sure.
Your Honor.
And what did you say to her?
I went and sat in the living room on the chair, and when the argument continued, I left.
What was she saying to you?
After about the first 10 minutes, I don't even know. I wasn't listening.
Is it possible she was saying to you, you have to get a job because you have to pay me back the money you owe me?
She did say that, and that's something that we already knew, but it was wintertime. I frame houses for a living, and framing jobs aren't so easy to find in the wintertime.
Well, this makes my life much easier because you see what you just said, Mr. Lupersbeck? You said that's what we were arguing about, you know, about the money that I owed her. But, you know, it's not so easy in the wintertime to get a job framing, and that's what I do for a living. So you know what that is, Mr. Lupersbeck?
What is it?
That is an acknowledgement that you owe her money.
Your Honor.
Shut up!
Sorry.
That's what it is. You must have been before a lot of dumb judges in your time, sir.
Not that I know of.
Somebody who's been arrested and probably convicted more than half a dozen times, as far as I'm concerned, should probably be in jail forever. Listen to me carefully, sir. Did you give him a W-2 for his taxes?
Your Honor, it's a different form.
It's a different...
1099.
Okay, so you gave him a 1099.
Yes, he's got that.
You have a short time to fill out your taxes, sir.
Correct, ma'am. April 15th.
Right. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,195, which is the amount requested. I don't believe, Mr. Luberspeck, that you paid back this loan. Your final statement to me indicates that the last argument that you had with the plaintiff was over this loan. You decided to tune her out on the 15th of December. I tune you out now. Thank you very much. That's
Thank
all.
you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
We can't communicate because both of us are hard-headed and didn't want to listen to the other one.
I'm just very hurt that I gave the defendant so many chances and tried to help him so much, and he still denied the fact that he owed me the money.
I love her very much.
I care about him, but I think I'm going to make smarter decisions from now on.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of McLeish versus Kramer, step forward.
21-year-old department store manager Ashley McLeish is suing her former friend, retail salesperson Angela Kramer, for her share of a trip to Las Vegas. Angela claims Ashley and her witness coerced her into going.
How old are you, Miss McLeish?
21.
Miss Kramer?
21.
You used to be really good friends, and you claim that Miss Kramer owes you for her share of a trip that the two of you took to Las Vegas.
Correct.
And Miss Kramer says she had a lousy time, right?
Yeah.
And in addition to having a lousy time, she never agreed to pay you back.
That is incorrect.
Miss Kramer, what do you do for a living?
I'm a student in a retail sales.
Where do you work?
I work at Mervyn's.
You live by yourself?
No.
Who do you live with?
I live with my father.
In his house?
Yes.
Miss McLeish, what about you? You're a student?
Yeah, I go to Golden West College, and I'm a retail manager at Mervyn's, and I live with my parents.
Okay, good. Now, you went on vacation?
Yes.
For how long?
3 days.
You were going there for what reason?
Because it was our 21st birthday, so me, her, and my witness wanted to have a good time, and on our 21st birthday, Vegas is like the place to be.
Good. So, you asked her to go with you?
Yes.
She said?
Yes.
And?
So I looked online for prices for hotel and airfare because we wanted to fly there. And after...
Did Miss Kramer say that you should put these charges on your credit card?
I agreed to put it on my credit card, and the agreement was that she would pay me back before we left on August 1st.
Your Honor, that's not...
Just a second. She didn't pay you back?
No, she hadn't paid me back.
What did she tell you about paying you back?
She said she'll get back to me. So I figured it was like she'd pay me back when we got back because we were having a great time. We both had fun. We went out to dinner, we went dancing, we went to clubs, we went got VIP everything. We didn't have to pay for anything. And all she did was...
Why not?
Why not? Because the month before we had made a connection. Our friend knows a lot of like security guards, and he knows a lot of bouncers, so we got to get in free. We didn't have to wait in like 2-hour lines to get in the best clubs.
Okay. According to you, you had a good time.
Right.
Came back, she didn't pay.
Right.
Go.
I never agreed to pay. When she said that the hotel, the price of it, I said that's way too high and I'd rather just stay at my family's house because I can stay there for free.
So why didn't you?
Because when I told them that, they said, just don't worry about it.
And somebody dragged you on the plane?
Well, you know, it's my 21st birthday. I was trying to distance myself anyways, and that's why...
I'm asking you, somebody dragged you on the plane?
No.
Well, if you didn't want to go, why did you go?
Because they said, just don't worry about the costs.
Well, why would you think that they would take you away on vacation?
Because that's what they said.
I don't believe you.
Okay.
I don't believe you.
I actually have pictures, if I could show you, of her having a good time dancing.
I don't care whether she had a good time or whether she had a lousy time. It's irrelevant to me.
Your Honor, I was trying to get out of the vacation because I didn't want to go with them. And when they said, just come on, please go, I decided, fine, I'll go. Because they said, don't worry about any of the costs, don't worry about anything,
Your Honor,
just
may I
go.
say something,
Yeah,
please?
step up. Tell me your name.
My name is Lori Irigoyen, and we spoke to her the night before we left, and she said, yeah, she couldn't afford it, but then we said, okay, we've still put it on a credit card, you need to pay us back, or you need to pay Ashley back. She didn't want to do that. Well, you can't
Well, what did she say?
She said, no, I don't have to pay you back. If I don't go, I shouldn't have to pay you back.
Exactly.
Why did you call the night before?
Because I had talked to them recently before that also, because what I was doing was I was talking to my backgrounds investigator, and when I was going through looking at the lie detector test and polygraph...
I have no idea what you're talking about now. I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about.
What it is I'm going for a future career in the criminal justice, and so I was talking to a backgrounds investigator, and she was showing me the polygraph test. that you would have to be taking, and it had to ask questions about your friends and what you know about your friends, and that can make you fail and make it so you can't get into a premier area.
So
I had
please.
I had decided that I didn't want to be around any negative influences where I know that things are going on.
So why did you go?
Because I made a mistake. I thought...
Good. Yeah, that's what you say. You say, I made a mistake. And when you make a mistake, what do? Pay! Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $296.45.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And then the matter of Aristizabal versus Morales. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat, ma'am, please.
Mr. Aristizabal, what kind of a business do you have, sir?
Do an auto repair business, ma'am?
According to your complaint, Mr. Morales came into your shop to have his car fixed. You did a diagnostic workup on his car, told him he needed transmission to be done.
Yes.
He decided at some point that he didn't want you to do the work on his car, and he went to leave. You told him he couldn't leave until he paid you for the diagnostic work, which was $85.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, at some point, and you're going to tell me how this happened, he tried to leave. You tried to stop him. Tried to stop him by having one of your employees close a gate. He plowed through, damaged your property and a sign. You want him to pay for all that damage. Mr. Morales says that you had no right to try to restrain him.
Correct.
That you did no work on the car, that when your gate closed on his car, you caused damage to his car, and he is counterclaiming.
Correct.
What day did Mr. Morales come into your shop?
On 11/16, Mr. Morales came. I do have an exhibit.
What time did he come, sir?
4 o'clock, 4:30.
And what time does your shop close, sir?
6 o'clock, Your Honor.
Did Mr. Morales have an appointment, or did he come in
No, he walked
without
in.
an appointment?
He walked into my shop by a friend. He was recommended by a friend of his.
Had he had work done by Mr. Aristizabal himself?
No, Your Honor.
So why did he make this recommendation to you?
He said to me that this was his uncle's shop and that he'd give me a good price, an estimated price on rebuilding my transmission for that.
Is that what you needed, a rebuilt transmission?
Yes, Your Honor.
How did you know that you needed a rebuilt transmission, Mr. Morales?
I had went the day before to another mechanic shop, and I have the receipt here. It shows that I paid for diagnostics, and it states there that my transmission needed to be rebuilt.
Now, when you came into Mr. Aristibal's shop, sir, did you tell him you needed to rebuild the transmission?
Yes, I did, Your Honor. Well, actually, when I first got there, he wasn't there. He showed up about 45 minutes later.
So at that point, it was between 4:45 and 5:30.
Yeah, about 5:30, when I finally got in contact with him around that time. He showed up. He asked me...
Who's Giovanni?
He was Giovanni at the time. He stated his name was Giovanni. He asked me what was the problem with the car. I stated my transmission needed to be rebuilt. He asked me, how do I know? I told him because I had another diagnostics done. So he then got in the car and test drove the vehicle.
How did he test drive the vehicle, sir?
He drove it up to the garage door, and then he also reversed it back. He opened the hood. He looked in it. The vehicle was on the whole time, and then that was basically all he did. He asked me, follow me into my office. He asked me for my information.
May I see the piece of paper that you have, sir? Is that the information that you filled out when you came in?
Yes, this is exactly information exactly as to what happened.
Okay. Is this the piece of paper that you filled out while Mr. Morales was sitting in your office?
There is 4 copies, Your Honor, just to refresh you. There is 4 copies at the beginning of the estimate. That was the final estimate, what it says, everything that I found with the vehicle, everything that said. He also asked me...
You're not answering my question, sir.
That's the piece of paper that he filled up, yes, Your Honor. And he got an estimate of...
No. Mr. Morales did not sign this document that you have handed to me.
Yes, he did.
No. He did not sign this as it is written here. You filled this out after he left. So I want to see what he signed when he was there, not after you wrote everything that you wanted to write on this document about what happened later.
I gave him a copy where it says computer diagnosis, ABS not working, to check and advise. $85 on the top of it, as you can see. The final invoice,
This invoice is meaningless to me, sir. So then let's get over this, because we're not going to waste any more time. We're not going to waste any more time.
Fine, Your Honor.
Tell me what you did with the car, Mr. Aristobal.
When it came off for the car, I did the diagnosis. I put it what is called a modest.
Tell me what you did.
I did the diagnostic.
Listen to me.
Would you please let me describe, Your Honor?
No, I want you to answer my question, Mr. Aristobal.
I finally invoiced it. I told him exactly what it was wrong at 5:30. He said he was going to take it somewhere else to have it repaired somewhere else. He wasn't going to do it then. I asked him he must repair. He must pay me for the diagnosis that I had done.
I didn't hear anybody doing a diagnostic, sir. Just because you wrote diagnosis doesn't mean you did anything. Now, you want to tell me exactly what you did or produce an employee who performed any work on the car.
It says right there on the invoice, Your Honor.
Mr. Aristobal, that's what the whole dispute is about. Mr. Morales says you didn't do any work on his car.
So he signed an invoice saying to have the car diagnosed.
This invoice, sir, is worthless. You wrote this invoice after the whole incident happened.
Did you see that I did it after, Your Honor?
Sir, you can't produce something.
I am producing. That's the honestly true, Your Honor.
Mr. Aristobal.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
We started arguing. He was, being loud. I got loud also.
He was a little bit high on drugs, I will imagine, because he was very.
This man was not high on drugs.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Mechanic Orlando Aristizabal says customer James Morales owes for skipping out on a bill. James says Orlando didn't perform any work on his car.
Who is this person?
That is a customer that happened to be there when he damaged his car, and he's here to testify. He damaged the car with the...
So this is a witness that you brought. Did you bring a witness who did any work on Mr. Morales' car?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, did anybody else take your car away from you and put it up on a lift or a machine?
No, Your Honor.
When you told him that you weren't going to do the job, what happened?
Well, what happened was, from after he drove the vehicle, we got off the car, we went into his office. He asked me for my information. I signed the form. He said that he was going to call me the next day to let me know exactly how much it was going to cost, that it was mandatory for his company to do a diagnostics. So after all, I agreed with it. I said, fine, fine. I agreed with it. I left the premises.
What made you change your mind, sir?
Overall, the car is in my name. It's my car. But that's my wife's vehicle. I have a 99 Tahoe, my truck, which I drive to work and back. She uses the Infiniti to go to work and do her errands. The car that was getting fixed was coming out of her money. She said no. She decided not to. She told me, well, we're wasting our money if we're throwing our money out the window to get another diagnostics done if we just got one done yesterday. So from there...
So you went back inside to get your car.
Right. When I went back to the premises, we pulled into the vehicle. She pulled in where the gate line is, right on the premises line, where the gate would close, and she stopped. I got off the vehicle, I walked up to the garage, I seen my vehicle still in the same place, the key still in the ignition, the hood was still open, the door was open, and I looked for Mr. Giovanni, which he told me his name was at the time. I went into the office, I did not see him. I came out of the office, he came out of the back, he appeared out of the back. I then told him, we're not gonna leave the car with you after all, I'm gonna go ahead and take my car. He told me, well, you can go ahead and take the car, but you have to pay me my diagnostics, my $85 for the work that was done. I told him what work. I told him there was no wires connected to my car. I see no computer next to my car. I see no mechanic next to my car. I see no tools. The car was not on a hoist. It was not moved. So therefore, I felt that there was no work rendered to my vehicle, and I told him that I was not going to pay him.
Did you see his car on a lift, sir?
No.
Did you see any wires attached to his car being diagnosed?
Well, I was only there for like 5 minutes.
The answer is no.
No.
Go ahead.
So from that point, I told him I told him that I wasn't gonna pay him. We started arguing. He was being loud. I got loud also, and from there I had my wife and my daughter in my truck waiting for me. I didn't want to argue with him, so I gave him the paper back. I shook his hand and I told him, look, Mr. Giovanni, if you feel I owe you, you have all my information.
Sue me.
You call me, you sue me, you do whatever you have to do. I'm taking my car.
Does that sound familiar, Mr. Aristobal?
I saw him after he came back. He wanted to leave. I told him he must pay for the diagnosis, which had been authorized.
And he said, I'm not paying for it.
He said he's not paying for it. I can call the police. He was a little bit high on drugs, I will imagine, because he was very,
This man was not high on drugs. This man was not high on drugs. Listen to me, sir. Mr. Aristobal, put the pictures down, sir. How did you stop him? Because according to your complaint, you said you tried to stop him. How did you try to stop him, sir?
I don't need to stop him. I did not. So help me God, Your Honor. I did not stop him. He left, taking my gate out of it and my dumpster, hitting the dumpster, and here is the pictures of it.
Step up. You were a customer?
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you been a customer there?
For like 1 year.
You saw this incident happen?
Yeah, I only saw when he left.
Did one of Mr. Aristobal's employees close the gate?
No, ma'am.
Was it closed?
No, it was open. It was open like a car's distance.
And so describe to me what happened, sir.
Well, the young man got in his car and he just, like, bailed out fast, like he was stealing the car. He was, like, scared for some reason. He just left real fast and he hit the dumpster and the gate.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. From that time, when I paid him, I told him I wasn't going to pay the $85, I gave him the receipt back, because when I left, he gave me a receipt. And I told him, I'm not going to pay you. I was already backing up. He then asked me, look, at least pay me $45 for my labor fee. I then replied to him, I'm not going to pay you anything. I continued to back up. He started yelling at his. There was about maybe 10 employees there. And if I may say, Your Honor, he was also an employee here. The witness is also an employee. If you notice his hands, they are greasy. I mean,
you work for him?
He
Do
is
you
an
do part-time
employee.
work for him?
I don't work for him. I paint cars. He's a mechanic shop.
What were you doing there that day, sir?
He was fixing one of my cars.
Fixing one of your personal cars or your business cars?
No, one of my cars.
Your
that I'm
Honor,
going to sell. Yeah, I try to get cars fixed so I can sell them.
Sit down. Go ahead.
From there, he yelled at his employees, don't let him leave, don't let him leave. I'm calling the police, don't let him leave. Well, my wife was still parked in the same place, if I can point out. She was parked here, right on the gate where the gate closes. And one of the employees started closing the gate on her vehicle. My daughter was in the car on the passenger side, behind the passenger back seat, and where the gate was closing onto. My wife then exits the vehicle and asks Giovanni, what's going on? What's going on? Giovanni replies, he's trying to steal my money. He needs to pay me. You guys need to pay me my money. She got in the vehicle. She backed up. She got onto the street. I then continued to back up. When they closed the gate on me, when it hit my vehicle, if you can see, if I can present some pictures to you. If you notice where the red arrow is, that's where I came to a complete stop at the dent that it made.
I want to see all the pictures, Bird. There's Mr. Aristobal's also, please.
This is the customer's car.
So what's this?
The car was scraped from the front all the way, from the back all the way to the front from the yellow fence. If you can notice the yellow paint on the fence.
If you look, Your Honor, on the tire on the driver's side, on the first tire, you would see that the trash can was actually pushed onto
the car.
On the driver's side.
You see the blue paint from the picture.
And both of the mirrors were knocked off.
Did you see who did that?
I couldn't really identify who did it. However, I know the male who was closing the gate was a white, tall, Caucasian male. And I told him, what's going on here? Because he's closing the gate on the side my 2-year-old is sitting on in her car seat. He says, I'm just doing my job. I'm just doing my job. Mr. Giovanni at the time, who had presented himself as Giovanni, was instructing his workers in Spanish that by no means let us out. Mr. Giovanni at that time said that he was going to call the cops. However, Cop Ernst did call the dispatching group to see if any call was dispatched from that location, and it was a negative.
Who's Giovanni?
This is, I named my shop after my son.
When somebody comes in and asks for Giovanni, your name is Orlando.
I am Giovanni's DBA-S. Yes, Your Honor, that is true. I'm Orlando DBA-S Giovanni's. That's how my fictitious name is.
You have estimates on your car?
Yes, we do, Your Honor. We have an estimate that was done a couple of days after the incident.
The next day.
The next day.
Which is the 17th. It's also dated.
Do either of you have a police report?
Yes, we do.
We have a copy of the preliminary police report that was filed that day.
If I may,
Do you have a copy of a police report that you filed, Mr. Aristobal?
Yes, Your Honor.
I'd like to see it, please.
If I may, Your Honor.
Shh.
Okay.
No. What year car is this?
It's a 1993 Infiniti G20.
Well, the cost of painting it is $3,000. It's
Right.
worth more than the car.
Exactly.
Right. You paint cars, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
How much do you charge for a really good paint job?
It varies from $2,500 to $500.
And what about to take out all the dents on a car?
Depends how many, what kind of dents.
Here you go. It's not often that I have an expert witness that I can question. You can stand up, sir.
It could be fixed without changing any parts.
Great. How much could you fix it for, sir?
I can fix this probably for $1,500.
You know what I find interesting, Mr. Aristobal? That Mr. and Mrs. Morales filed their police report the date of this incident, the 16th.
Right after.
You didn't bother to file yours until the next day.
When I went there, they told me I won't be able to file the same day because simply they have filled out one. And when I got there at the Foothill Police Division, they told me I must wait until next day so I can file a report. And I went back.
Are you telling me that a police officer said you couldn't give your version of the events on the same day?
Yes, because it was one taken already. Yes, Your Honor, that's
But the next day it was okay for them to take it.
Well, I went over it again.
So what you're telling me is the next day they said...
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Aristobal, you did the wrong thing, sir. There was a dispute. Whether you were right or wrong with regard to the dispute, you had an option. And your option was to let this gentleman and his wife leave.
I did.
And no, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
No, you didn't. To let this gentleman and his wife leave, causing no problem, deciding to sue him, you had his name and address, you felt as if he owed you $85. That's what you do. You said, no, I'm calling the police. The truth of the matter is, if you had called the police at that very moment, Mr. Aristobal, you would have been the first one filing the police report. You didn't call the police at all.
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
Not that day you didn't, sir.
So help me God.
No, you didn't, sir. Because then you would have filed the police report before them, and if I listened to your logic, when they came out speaking, then when they came in, the police would have said to them, you can't file a report today, Mr. Aristobal already did. You have to come back tomorrow and file your report. I know exactly what happened. You don't have to be a genius to figure out what happened. There is no indication whatsoever by you or any witness that any work was done on Mr. and Mrs. Morales' car. You were annoyed that they weren't leaving the car. You told your employees to close the gate because you weren't going to let him take the car. You frightened his wife by your actions, and you're going to pay for his car.
And my daughter.
And he's not going to pay for any damage that he did to your gate or your dumpster because he had no right to try to keep him inside, which you did. You have recourse. This is not the Wild West. Judgment for the defendant in the amount of $1,700. You can have your car fixed for that amount. Otherwise, you'll have to total it.
Thank you.
To train him. Your Honor, this is case number 457 in the matter of Jimenez versus Brooks. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
My money's on you.
Okay.
Ms. Jimenez, this used to be your boyfriend. You claim he has a bad temper, and while you were in the midst of an argument, he kicked your car and then body slammed you on your car, causing damage to your car.
Yeah.
Now you're suing him for damage to the car, but not damage necessarily to your body, which causes me some pause, because to me, if somebody took me and threw me against a car, I would sue him for hurting me, but I guess your car is important. And also, you say in another fit of rage, he broke your cell phone.
Yeah.
Mr. Brooks says, well, he did in fact break the cell phone.
Yes, ma'am.
But he says with regard to the car, you were trying to run him down, and he merely tried to protect himself by trying to hold back 3,000 pounds with his foot. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When did this incident happen with your car, Miss Jimenez?
October 7th.
Where were you?
We were at my house.
How long had you been at your house?
About 3 minutes. We'd gotten into an argument right as we pulled up.
He was in your car?
He'd gotten out of the car, and I was still in the car. And we'd gotten into an argument, and I didn't want to get out of the car. I didn't want him to go into my house, so I told him I was going to take him home.
He was coming to your house for what?
To take a shower.
Why? He doesn't have a shower?
his shower didn't have a shower curtain, and I guess he liked my shower better.
His shower didn't have a shower curtain?
Yeah.
How do you do that, sir?
Oh, we just took baths.
You just took baths in your house?
Yeah.
Why don't you buy a shower curtain?
Lazy, I guess.
How long have you lived in this house without a shower curtain?
It was like 2 months.
2 months without a shower curtain?
Yes, ma'am.
Who lives there?
Well, it was just me and my brother at the time.
Did you used to live with your mother?
Yes, ma'am.
And your father?
Yes, ma'am.
Did they have a shower curtain?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So he was coming to your house to take a shower because he got tired of taking baths at his house.
Yeah.
He probably got tired because if he didn't have a shower curtain and only took baths, I guarantee you that he didn't clean the bathtub.
That's not true.
That is true.
She's lying.
No. Anybody that doesn't have time to buy a shower curtain doesn't have time to rub-a-dub-dub scrubbing out the bathtub. Anyway, okay, so you picked him up to take him to your house to take a shower. You got into an argument in the car. He got out of the car. You didn't want to get out of the car. You wanted to drive him home.
Yeah. Somehow my roommate got involved into this argument, and he went up to the house to confront my roommate, and he assaulted my roommate. And then after that, he came back out, assaulted me, and then...
Well, tell me how he assaulted you.
He pushed me to the ground and kicked me in the leg.
What was the fight about?
That he used me.
Used you?
Yeah.
Used you for what?
Well, he didn't have a car, you know, he really didn't have very much money, and I was pretty much there for him.
Okay, so he threw you down on the ground and he kicked you twice. Go ahead.
He continued to follow me around, so I went and got in my car, and he continued to yell at me while I was in my car, and then he started...
What was he yelling?
I wasn't paying attention. I was just too disturbed by what he'd just done to me. And so I just sat in my car, and he kicked the hood, and then he kicked the side panel twice, and I have pictures here of the damages that he did.
That's not true, Your Honor. This didn't happen at her house. This happened at my house.
That's not true. She was telling the truth. She picked you up from your house without a shower curtain and took you to her house that did have a shower curtain to take a shower.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you go into the house and take a shower?
No, I had gotten into a fight with her roommate.
Okay, about what?
Because he said that I was using her. So I went up to the door, and I asked him if he said something, and he said he did. So he was walking away, and I kept following him, and then I hit him.
You hit him?
Yeah.
What are you, nuts?
No, ma'am.
Where did you hit him?
Well, I didn't really hit him. I kind of put... He was...
He hit him
as
in
he
the head.
Shh. She's lying.
No, look, just a minute. You just said you hit him.
Well, I pushed him in the back of his head as he was walking away. You know, kind of like that.
Not true.
Yeah, it is. And after that, we went into the backyard. We argued for a minute.
Who argued?
Me and him.
Well, I certainly would argue with you. I'd probably call the police. And then you got back into the car?
And she took me home.
So what happened when you got home?
Well, we got home. We were going to go out that night. I said I didn't want to go to the club. She wanted to go, so she got mad. She was in her brother's car at the time. She thought I stole her keys. She kept coming over there after she went home from the club. My witness is right here. Okay, she was cussing, just ran into my house, didn't knock or anything, just walked in. We're in there chilling, you know. She said, "Where are my keys? Where are my keys?" I said, "I don't have your keys." She leaves and comes back, leaves and comes back. She does this like 3 times, okay? Finally, she comes back with her car. And she said, "Where's my keys? Where are my keys?" She's drunk, by the way. I said, "Dude, you're stupid. If I have your keys, how are you in your car?" Okay, so I had
That's
to...
right. He said, "Dude, you're stupid." Is that what you said?
That's exactly what I said. So I had to physically take her out of my house to put her in the car. Okay, as I did that, she was backing up. She backed up like this, and then she went for it, like she was going to hit me. And I kicked the car. I did kick the car, but she was trying to hit me.
But she wasn't in the car when she did that.
Yeah,
I had car. That was not my car.
I had put her in the car.
You would put her in the car?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Brooks, how long was Miss Jimenez your girlfriend?
2.5, 3 months, maybe.
Did you like her?
Yeah.
Why would you put her in her car if she was drunk?
Because she wouldn't get out of my house.
Weren't you concerned that maybe she would hurt herself driving around drunk in the car?
Yes, ma'am, but she does that all the time anyway. She always drives around drunk. Every time we go to the club, we're both drunk and she drives.
That makes you dumb and dumber. If you get into the car with somebody who's driving while they're intoxicated, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, why are you so stupid?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
I mean, we both drive drunk. I mean, I know how to drive when I'm drunk. I don't know.
You don't have any children or anything, do you?
Well, I do have a daughter.
Well, I was going to suggest you not do that. Now, you want to talk to me?
Okay.
Tell me your name.
My name is Derek.
Derek, you have a last name.
Villanueva.
Villanueva.
Yes, ma'am.
Did I pronounce that well?
That's fine.
So if I wasn't so good at pronouncing your last name, we'll just call you Derek.
That's fine.
Derek, were you a witness to this incident that happened on October the 7th?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me where you were, Derek.
I was in Ronnie's house, sitting on the couch, playing the PlayStation.
Everybody's got a PlayStation. PlayStation he has, shower curtain he doesn't have.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
The entire world knows that the two of you drive drunk. So if you get behind the wheel and kill somebody, it's not an accident anymore. Do we understand each other?
And later today,
I was violated because I had a dirty pee test because I smoked weed or whatever. And I had to do 3 months, and I got out, had a baby, get out of my mom's
Sounds like the
house.
American dream to me.
Yeah.
Sit down.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Amy Jimenez says her ex-boyfriend, Ronnie Brooks, owes for kicking a dent into her car and for breaking her cell phone. Ronnie says Amy was drunk on the night in question.
Go ahead.
Well, first I heard a noise to the left, and it was a foot coming through the door. That would be her foot. So Ronnie took her to the car. Well, like he said, she tried to run over him whenever she backed up and then came forward, and that's what I had seen. I also saw them yelling at each other, but I didn't see him hit her.
He didn't hit her.
No, ma'am.
Because I read her complaint, and her complaint doesn't say he hit her.
That was because his friends were around that time.
Well, I mean,
His friends weren't around him when you filled out this complaint, madam.
Ma'am, she was also drunk, so, I mean, she doesn't even remember me.
Oh, you kicked her car.
I kicked it, yeah, but she tried to run me over.
Yeah, but you kicked it on the side.
He also slammed me on the hood several times.
I made one dent on that car.
He did only kick it once.
I only kicked it one time.
You kicked it once?
One time.
Very good, because these pictures were taken 2.5 months later, right?
They were. My father took those pictures because I did not have a camera at the time.
Well, that's too bad. 2.5, almost 3 months later, you don't bring pictures in of a car.
Your Honor, I filed the police report later on, like a month later. I was terrified of
A month later?
He promised me he was going to fix my car, and I was waiting for him to fix it. I went over to his house several times.
Just a second, Mr. Brooks.
Yes, ma'am.
I tend to believe the fact that you kicked her car, and I tend to believe the fact that she was drunk.
Yes, ma'am.
I believe you, because otherwise she would have filed this police report the next day if it happened the way she said it happened. She waited a month, something happened, and I don't know, we even know whether you saw each other socially during that month. Did you or did you not?
Yes, ma'am. About 2 or 3 weeks afterwards, we did.
Where did you go 2 or 3 weeks afterwards?
She always went to my house after that happened.
I have to go to his house because he doesn't have a car.
You mean after this happened, you went to his house?
His roommate lived with him, and I knew if there was other people around, he wouldn't
Just a second. I don't care whether his roommate was there or not. You're making this up as you're going along, Miss Jimenez.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are, because if you're terrified of somebody, you don't go to their house. That's not what happens. You stay away from them, whether their roommate is there or not.
I was trying to get my car fixed, Your Honor.
Oh, please, give me a break, will you please? Tell me about how you broke her cell phone, sir.
Well, that was at her house whenever I had just got through getting to that confrontation with her roommate. She didn't want to take me home at first, and my clothes were in her car, so I just told her to open her car, and I would walk home. Okay, she didn't want to, so I just grabbed her cell phone and threw it across the parking lot.
And how much did you pay for your cell phone?
She did. She got another one free.
Did you get another one free?
Yes. That's what you told me last
My friend bought me another
week.
cell phone because I couldn't afford to get another cell phone.
Okay. Now, how much do you think it's going to cost to pull out the dents in this car?
For the particular part that I kicked, $400, because she had showed me the estimate. She went to my house and showed me, and I said I'd pay for that.
Perfect. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $480. $400 for the kick to the car and $80 for the cell phone. Stay away from each other. Stay away from him.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
And, by the way, one more thing. The entire world knows that the two of you now drive drunk. So if you get behind the wheel of a car and kill somebody, it's not an accident anymore. Do we understand each other?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand me? Perfect.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
My roommate told me that he thought Ronnie was using me.
He didn't have a job, and she was taking him everywhere, and I told her that he was the one that was using her.
Ronnie did use me. He's scum. He's very violent.
No more. That's over.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Fernandez versus Holt. Step forward.
18-year-old homemaker April Fernandez is suing her boyfriend's sister, 24-year-old nurse's assistant Sheba Holt, for the return of a security deposit. Sheba says she kept the money because April ran up a $400 phone bill.
Miss Fernandez, I assume this is your boyfriend?
Yes.
Your brother?
Yes.
According to what I read, Miss Fernandez, in your complaint, you had been living with Miss Holt.
Her mother.
And
Correct.
she lived there too?
Yes.
With the boyfriend. And there came a time when you and Miss Holt decided to rent an apartment together. You gave her a deposit, $300.
Yes.
And then you changed your mind.
Yes.
Why did you change your mind?
During the time my son was in the hospital, and she would come up and visit.
Is he the father of that child?
Yes, he is.
How old is that child?
Now he's 4 months, 5 months actually.
Go ahead.
And during the time my son was in the hospital for surgery, he was only a couple weeks old, and my boyfriend and I planned to get our own apartment. We were living at his mom's house rent-free, and we were trying to save our money to get our own apartment. She came up with the idea that let's live together and we'll split the rent. So I went along with it. She picked me up, took me to the bank, I withdrawed money, and the day later I got released from the hospital, asked her to pick me up, and she never showed up. So I changed my mind and I asked for my money back, and she never paid me back.
That's incorrect. She lived with me because that is my home also. I pay half the bills, I pay the phone bill, I pay half the mortgage, everything. Me and my mother share the home. And so, yes, she was living with me under my roof.
That's fine. She gave you $300. You don't deny she gave you $300.
No, I don't deny that she gave me $300, but I also don't believe that I owe her $300.
Well, that's what you have to explain to me.
Well, I have a phone bill here from when she stayed at my house. I did say that she can stay rent-free until after she had her child, but I didn't say that she can run my phone bill up.
Incorrect.
And so when I got my phone bill and seen all these collect calls that she accepted from that young man who was in jail, I didn't feel like I needed to pay her $300 due to the fact that mortgage was due. We were all still living in that house.
Okay, I got it. Step. Miss Holt, let me tell you this. Generally speaking, you can't do what you want to do, which is write off the $300. And I understand you gave her $70 back.
Yes, I did because I
okay,
felt
and you
bad.
acknowledge she gave you $70 back.
Yes, she did.
You can't decide that you're going to hold that for bills unless you had a contract that provided that she was to pay a phone bill.
Why would I need a...
Listen to me. Why? I don't know why. I have no idea why. She was staying at your house with a baby. He's in jail for what?
Anything.
What in me, but no.
Oh, I was in jail for a probation violation because I didn't show up to court, failure to appear. And so I had a warrant for my arrest, and I got put in jail for 2.5 months. Then I got out, and...
What had you been convicted of?
What have I been convicted of?
That was my question. You have the answer.
Well, I got convicted of, what was it again? It was, it was grand theft, but that was in 2000.
2000 grand theft. I want to know what you were violated on, sir. What underlying crime were you violated on?
I was violated because I had a dirty pee test because I, smoked weed or whatever.
Oh, my God.
So I got in trouble for that, and I had to do 3 months, and I got out, had a baby, and, I wanted to get my stuff together and get out of my mom's house.
Sounds like the American dream to me.
Yeah.
Sit down.
Okay.
I had enough. Miss Holt,
Your Honor.
Miss Holt, listen to me very carefully.
Sure.
You owe her $230. Who are you living with now?
I still live at my same house.
Perfect. With your mother?
Yes.
Now, what about him?
And he comes in and out as he pleases, bringing his little entourage to come live on me.
Do you know why that is, Miss
Why?
Holt? Because your mother permits it.
Well, anyhow, I
Listen
live
to
there,
me.
though,
No,
and I
listen.
pay half of the bills.
Am I speaking? When I speak, you don't. Take your hand off your hip. Only attitude here is mine.
That's right.
Your problem is you live with your mother. This is her baby.
No,
No. He's her baby. You're grown up. You work, right?
Yes.
You help pay the bills?
Yes.
You have a responsible job?
Yes.
You've had it for how long?
Forever.
Forever?
Yes.
He will always be her baby because he's never going to grow up. He's never going to be responsible. You have to find your own place because your mother is always going to let him come back into the house, going to let him come back with his entourage, and it's always going to irritate you. So if you want to be free of that stress and aggravation, find your own place. Now I'm going to listen to you.
Okay, Judge, you know, I just don't understand why she is suing me when I pulled her out of a situation where her mother, she's pregnant at 18 years old, 17, and her mother's getting ready to send her to jail pregnant. You know what I'm saying?
My mother, I don't want you to interrupt us.
And, you know, all these things, and she's putting her out. And I stopped what I was doing when this fool called me from jail saying, can you rescue my broad? So I go get her, bring her to my house, you know what I'm saying? Let her live in my room, rent-free, you know, and this is what I get. This is what I get in return. I get sued for taking care of this youngster.
Miss Holt.
She's wrong. I'm wrong for taking her into my home.
Don't.
Letting her use me, that's what I'm wrong for.
Miss Holt.
Yes, ma'am.
You are morally correct. You cannot, however, take her $230. Do I think that she's right to sue you after living, you know,
on me for over 6 months?
Do I think so? I think she lacks a certain amount of character.
Yes.
Right? But it looks like for every pot there's a cover. You get it? You get it?
Yes, I do.
Good. I'm glad I gave you a good laugh. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $230. Listen, don't be such a good person anymore.
You're right about that.
And find your own place, because your mother's always going to take him back. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step. Yeah, this is case number 376 on the calendar in the matter of Hopper Damron versus Carnes. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat.
Who's Miss Hopper?
Hi.
Okay, and who are you?
I'm Melissa's mother. I'm Tammy Damron.
Why don't you have a seat, Miss Damron? How old are you?
Okay. 18.
Okay, why don't you have a seat for a minute? I don't know if we're going to need you. Is this your former husband?
Yes.
Or soon-to-be former husband?
Yes.
But you are still legally married?
Yes.
How long have you been married?
1 year on September 27th.
And you have a child who is how old?
Almost 3 months.
And Miss Carnes is his grandmother?
Yes.
Got it?
Got it.
From what I gather, a couple of years ago, you and your then boyfriend needed a car. You had an old car, and you decided to get a new one.
Right.
You didn't have good enough credit to buy a new one, so you asked Miss Carnes if she would buy the car in her name. You would make all the payments on the car, you and your husband.
Correct.
And you were going to trade in your old car as the down payment. They gave you a $2,000 credit.
Correct.
Is that right? And Grandma said she would do that, even though she risked her own credit if you didn't make the payments. But you did, in fact, you and your husband made the payments. Were you working during that year?
Yes, I did. Actually, I had a job being a nanny.
Did he work regularly?
No.
What did he do?
I have no idea. Well, he did actually...
What do you mean you have no idea? You lived with him.
He had a DJ job on the side. That's pretty much what he did on the weekends and sometimes during the week. And when he wasn't doing that, he was at home.
Who was taking care of the baby?
He wasn't born at the time.
So you were pregnant? Were you working while you were pregnant?
Yes.
Well, then an incident occurred with your husband.
Correct.
He assaulted you.
Yes.
That case is currently pending, is that right? Is that right, sir?
Yes.
So we're not going to get into that because that case has not gone to trial yet. So you separated. He took the car. You want your $2,000 back.
Correct.
That's what the case is about. Right?
Yes.
What kind of car did you trade in?
92 Geostorm.
And in what month and year did you trade it in?
August of 2003.
Well, explain to me why you think you are entitled to $2,000 back from Miss Carnes.
Basically, we had the arrangement that if we paid the payments that I would be able to drive the car, and we always made the payments. Whenever he wasn't working, I did pay the payments too.
And you used the car?
I honestly didn't have the car that much. He would take me to work.
Well, we don't balance that out. You had it sometimes, he had it sometimes. My question to you is, look, this is what she has.
Okay.
She doesn't have the car.
Right.
He has the car.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Stand up so I don't have to point. I'd like to look at you over here. She doesn't have the car. She's a good Samaritan.
Right.
He has the car.
Right.
All she does is have the aggravation. She has the loan. And she has the problem if he doesn't pay.
Right.
But she doesn't get anything out of this car.
Right.
So why do you think that she should give you $2,000?
Honestly, Judge, I think that I'm entitled to $2,000 because it It's not fair that I have to raise my son by myself with no car, nothing. Without.
That's not her problem. You want to say something? You could say something. I mean, that may be his problem, but that's not his grandmother's problem. Why should she go into her pocket and take out $2,000 and give it to you?
Because she's condoning what he did.
So what? That's not a legal response. What?
What I have to say, Judge Judy, is the car was mine. Melissa had transportation. She got together with this guy. The mistake in the matter was that we didn't get anything in writing. I didn't want them to use, Melissa had transportation. She worked, she goes to school. He didn't work. The fact of the matter is, now, whenever he wasn't working and the payments had to be made, it came from Melissa or from...
Ms. Damron, excuse me. You're not following me.
Okay.
Why should Miss Carnes, under what theory is it fair for her to go into her pocket? She doesn't have a car.
Because she didn't want to...
Just a second. She doesn't have a car. He's not a party to this action. Why should she go into her pocket and take out $2,000 and give it to your daughter?
I didn't want that car to be used as a down payment, but she
did it anyway.
Right. And
you're not
exactly. Yeah,
she
said that. She said that she would put the car in her name and not put their name on the title whatsoever.
Your daughter asked her to do that.
Yeah, and I was there at that time.
Just a minute. If they needed a better car, did they ask you to use your credit?
They did.
And you said no?
Yes.
Okay. Because you didn't want to have that responsibility. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. And so far, nobody has given me a logical reason why I should have Miss Carnes go into her pocket and take out $2,000 and give it to your daughter.
The reason I see is the fact that she should get the money from her grandson. She should get the money from her grandson because Melissa has the brand new baby. I have to take off work. Melissa had transportation. Now she has no transportation.
Right.
And he pays no child support.
That's not her problem.
Right. It's not her problem. But
Why
I'm
is
saying
that
she should get
her
the money from
problem. So what you're telling me is she should have more control over her grandson to get him to pay up and be responsible.
Well, basically.
Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, I am, because
that's ridiculous.
She had
that's not what you do in a court.
Right. Well, I guess not, but they had the money to bail him out of jail whenever he put her in the hospital 3 days before she was having their son.
Instead of taking off work, why don't you help her? If you have a job and you are regularly employed, buy a car. If she works, then you say to her, Melissa, dear, you're going to have to make payments on this car so then you'll have transportation. You're her mother. Instead, what you did was you relied on his grandmother to do that because you didn't want to do it. His grandmother is not responsible to give her $2,000. Maybe her soon-to-be ex-husband might be responsible for providing her with some sort of transportation because he now has the transportation, but that's not up to me. That's up to the judge who's handling their divorce. Certainly, Ms. Carnes is not responsible for $2,000 that your daughter would like to buy a new car. Case is dismissed, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She's just mad I won't be with her, and that's what she's causing all this drama over.
Basically, I was tired of being beat up and cheated on.
I've worked since I was 17. I've supported her. She's lived with me since she was 16.
No, he never works, and his grandmother basically bails him out of jail every time he beats my daughter up.
I want her out of my life. I would just want to be able to see my kid and live my life.
Basically, I don't think he's going to have anything to do with my son, considering I don't want him beating up my son, too.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of White versus Schimmels, step forward.
Nurse Diana White is suing her ex-boyfriend, switchboard operator Tom Schimmels, for the return of $4,000 worth of property. Diana says her ex is an abusive man. Tom is countersuing for harassment and mental distress.
Miss White, you claim that you met the defendant through a dating service. You moved in with him, and after a period of time, he told you that he wanted you to leave. You did, in fact, leave. It was not a pleasant separation. You claim he kept some of your property. You're suing him for that property in the amount of $4,000. Mr. Schimmel says that the only property that he has of yours is a stove that you left out on the front porch, that he's called you several times to come and get it. You can come and get it whenever you like because it's still there. Is that right, Mr. Schimmels?
Yes, it is, ma'am.
And that Mr. Schimmels is counterclaiming because he says that since you left, you have been embarking on course of harassing conduct towards him, and you caused some damage to his home when you moved out. Mr. Schimmels, I assume that you are legally blind, sir, and that dog is a seeing eye dog. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Ms. White, when did you meet Mr. Schimmels?
About June of 2003.
How did you meet him?
Through a singles line, a singles dating service.
You arranged your first meeting when?
I'm going to say June, the end of June.
And when did you move in with him?
The middle of October.
When did you move out?
February 10th.
Why did you move out?
Throughout our relationship, Tom would get angry and he would say, I just want you to move out. I just want you out of here. It made it very difficult to...
So why didn't you move out?
Because then he would say, I don't mean that. I just say that when I'm frustrated. The night of January 31st, we got into an argument over something very small, and he assaulted me that night. He hit me. I have a 911 tape.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I wasn't even comfortable in my own house.
Well, what would you like me to do about that, sir?
Well, that's why I countersued, because I was distressed, and,
I've been
and
distressed
she...
most of my life, sir. It doesn't mean that I come to a court and try to annoy somebody.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Diana White says ex-boyfriend Tom Schimmels owes for the return of patio furniture and a stove. Tom says Diana won't leave him alone.
According to what I read in the complaint, Mr. Schimmels gave you $2,500. What did he give you the $2,500 for?
That was for a grandfather clock, a china hutch, some rugs, and a computer desk, the bedding for the master bedroom, pictures, rugs, things like that.
Well, do you have a list?
Those are not...
Do you have a list?
I do not.
I do, Your Honor.
You do? Can I
Yes.
see the list? Who is this? Your friend?
This is my witness, Tim Flanagan.
Tim Flanagan, Judy.
Your last name, sir?
Flanagan.
Mr. Flanagan, step back, sir. Bird
Oh,
doesn't
okay.
like anybody to get too close, even
Yeah,
though
all
I
right.
know you don't look dangerous.
Thank you. You bet.
A hutch, lamps, grandfather clock, curtains in the master bedroom, desk, office, rug in the family room, and pictures in the master bedroom. Then you write, by no means is $2,500 fair, something the police have been to the house 2 times, and I do not want the... What is this, Bert? We'll ask her if she can read this, since it's her handwriting.
I couldn't read it either. Sorry for the pun.
Have been to the house. I do not want the abusiveness and fighting to increase, so under duress, I agreed to this.
Okay, fine. So, now, what things do you have, madam, that you say he refused to let you take from the house?
There's an entertainment center that I purchased in October, and I have a receipt for that. I purchased $2,300 worth of mini blinds and drapes. There's my antique stove.
Let's deal with this. As far as the mini blinds, etc., you don't get those back. They're fixtures. They're a part of the property, so you don't get them back, and he's not paying you for them. The stove you get back because he says he has the stove, and you can come and get it at any time.
Your Honor,
Go and
he
get it.
said this in the past, and he won't
Okay,
let me.
we'll create an order that 5 days from today's date, at 12 o'clock, you're going to come there with a, is this an old stove?
It's an antique stove.
Fine. Going to come there, and she's going to pick it up. Do you understand, sir?
Yes, sir. I've told her many times to come get it, and she
Fine.
refused to do that, and I've
Good.
given her, all of her stuff.
Fine. Terrific. The entertainment center. What about the entertainment center, sir?
She said when we were buying, I bought all the furniture from More Furniture. She said that she was going to buy that for me as a gift.
Give me the date.
It had to have been in October when we moved in, because I bought all brand new furniture for the whole house. And
Okay. So listen to me very carefully, sir. In October or November, that means that within either a month to 2 months, you told her to leave the house, correct? After just pay careful attention, Mr. Schimmel.
Okay.
Within a month or 2 after she bought the entertainment center, according to you, for the house, you told her to leave. Is that right?
In December, yes.
And it's true that some of the stuff that is in your home, like the blinds and the stuff that is attached to the house that I already told her she can't have back because they're attached to your house, you still have there. Is that right?
Correct.
And you are complaining, sir, that she's harassing you because your counterclaim said that she's been harassing you for money. Is that right?
Yes, she owes me money for damage deposits.
Just listen to me.
Okay.
You didn't sue her for damage deposits or anything else until she brought this lawsuit against you, Mr. Schimmel. So what I'm saying to you is, you're complaining that the harassment is because she keeps calling you, asking you for money.
Right.
Or her things. And I'm saying to you that it would have been smart of you if you told her to leave within a month or two of her buying you this entertainment center for the house she was moving. You should have given it back to her.
Well, I understood that it was a gift when she bought it.
I don't think so. How's that?
$771.52.
You prepared to give her back the entertainment center, sir? Along with the stove?
I can give her the stove. I mean, the entertainment center is built. I mean, it'd be really difficult for me to do that.
Okay. All right, so she gets the stove plus $771.50. What else, Miss White? And don't go into nonsense with me, because otherwise I'll reconsider the $771.50.
I'm not. My patio furniture is there, my molded lawn chairs, my padded folding lawn chairs are there. He did return 2 of my hoses, but the ends were cut off of them. There's wind chimes, there's
don't go into nonsense with me.
A 1940 radio.
You have an old radio, 1940 radio.
That she was going to throw away and she said I could have.
It's now become very, very important to her to have this old radio back. It's an antique. She wants it back. And when you give her back this property, she's going to stop annoying you. Do you understand?
You aren't one at all. I understand.
Good. So we have a stove that's going back to you and a radio. That's it, Miss White. Plus $771 for the entertainment center. Now let us briefly go into this counterclaim that you have. She's been harassing you. She's going to stop harassing you and calling you for money because you're giving her back the property that, according to what I believe she's entitled to, she's going to get within 5 days. Then you say she pulled her paintings right out of the walls and I had to hire a handyman to patch up and paint the damaged walls.
Yes.
Did you pull everything out of the walls?
No.
Show me pictures.
We don't have pictures.
Don't have
Good. Then you have no counterclaim.
But we have where we paid a man to fix the walls, and I've seen the walls when she moved out, and there was holes in them.
Why didn't you take a picture? If you intended to sue her, why didn't you take a
Well,
picture?
I didn't realize they were going to get into such an argument over some holes in the walls.
I mean, neither. So if you didn't plan on getting into an argument over holes in the walls, why are you bothering me with it now?
Yeah, okay.
Good. Counterclaim is dismissed.
Great.
There's a judgment for the plaintiff, and I'm entering 5 days from today you to pick up your stove from his porch and the radio, which will be on the porch on top of the stove or underneath the stove or next to the stove, plus $771 for the entertainment center that he says is too difficult to dismantle. Do you understand?
Yes.
By 12 noon. Otherwise, it's gone. Consider it over.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I've tried to get it over for a long time.
That's all. Listen to me.
I've not,
It's
you know, I mean,
over.
I wasn't even comfortable in my own house.
Well, what would you like me to do about that, sir?
Well, that's why I countersued, because I was distressed and
I've been distressed most of my life, sir. It doesn't mean that I come to a court and try to annoy somebody. Do you understand? You should have given her back a radio. You should have paid her for the entertainment center.
I tried to.
You did? You tried to pay her for the You paid her for the entertainment center?
No, because she
sent her
said
a
that
check?
was a gift.
Mr. Schimmels, say goodbye, sir. Mr. Flanagan will help you out. That's all.
Parties Chan. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat.
Mr. Newsom, it is your claim that owing to the defendant's negligence, your dog ran away. I assume this is the dog. As a result of that, you found the dog in pound. You had vet bills, pound costs, etc. Miss Chan says that you were a squatter on her property. You were not a tenant there, that the dog was left in her backyard. She opened the gate to leave. Your dog ran out. She had absolutely no obligation to go chasing after your dog. And in addition, she says that while you were a squatter there, you hit her house with your truck. You caused damage to her home. She wants you to pay for that. Miss Newsom, do you own this house?
I own the house.
How many apartments do you have in the house?
3 houses over there, triplex.
3 houses?
Right, triplex.
And Mr. Newsom, he is not a tenant of yours, is
No,
that right?
not at all.
Is that
Not
right,
at
sir?
all.
Yeah, I didn't live there.
Did you park your truck there at her house?
I visited my friend Mario on the weekends because I lived in L.A. at the time, and then I was working in Yorba Linda, so I stayed in Yorba Linda during the week. and I come in town on the weekends and stay with him on the weekends.
So you were staying there with your truck?
Yes, on weekends.
For how long?
I don't know, a month and a half or something. I forget now. He was until Mario moved out. I don't remember. I wasn't paying attention.
Well, let's try to pay attention and get specific. What month did you start to come in to visit Mario?
It would have been November 2003 through December of 2003.
And when did your dog disappear?
I guess, from what I understand, it was 4 days before I came to pick him up, which would have been on the 15th of October, I guess. I realized he had disappeared on the 19th when I came to pick him up.
You said you stayed there from November of 2003 till December of 2003.
That's right.
Your dog disappeared in October. That doesn't make sense.
That's right, because I wasn't staying there when my dog was being watched there. I went to Oregon to visit a friend and his mother who was dying. When I came back is when I, at that point, started staying there. And he was watching my dog for me while I was gone in Oregon.
How long did you leave your dog there?
I don't know, I think 10 days it was.
What's your name, Mario?
Yes, ma'am.
Stand up. Mr. Carmona, where was Mr. Newsom staying when he stayed in your house?
He would either stay upstairs, sleep on the floor upstairs, or because I had my aunt, my brother, and his girlfriend at the time, he didn't want to be a further inconvenience. So he said just lend him a couple blankets and he'd go ahead and just sleep in his bed of his truck for the night. I'd tell him to go upstairs and sleep in the...
And in what month did he come to stay with you?
But he didn't live, like I said, he would come over and visit on the weekends, but that started around November, about November.
All right. Now, when he left in October, he says he left his dog with you. Did he leave his dog with you?
Yes, he asked me if I could keep an eye on his dog while he went to go take care of some business that he had to take care of up in Oregon, I believe it was.
So, did you take care of his dog?
Yes, he left all the food that he needed. He left it upstairs with me.
How did the dog get away?
That is a good question. There was an incident where the dog was running around loose prior to Mr. Newsom leaving to Oregon. I had to call him because I couldn't put the dog back on his leash, on his runner.
Why not?
He wouldn't listen to me. I called Mr. Newsom. He had to drive back an hour. He put him back on the leash, and I informed everybody in my house, don't let him off the runner. He had plenty of rope, plenty of chain, so he could run around.
So you left him in the backyard?
He had a big backyard to run around.
You left him in the backyard?
Yes, ma'am.
Did he come into the house in the evening?
No.
So you left him in the backyard all the time?
Yes.
Was this backyard solely for you and the two other people on the lease, or was it for a lot of other people?
It was a shared backyard.
Well, what gives you the right to put the dog in the backyard?
None, but I did ask Ms. Chan that I was going to be keeping an eye on the dog. There was a doghouse in the back because there was already a dog
When
back
did
there.
you ask Ms. Chan if you could
Before
keep the dog?
Mr. Newsom left for Oregon,
Did he,
I asked her.
Ms. Chan?
No.
Of course not.
Yes, I did.
No, I don't believe you.
Okay.
Don't believe you, sir.
No.
If you had a dog that you couldn't control and there were other tenants using that backyard, it is unlikely that a landlord whose insurance is responsible would say, sure, keep a dog that's uncontrollable in the backyard so my other tenants are going to have trouble. Unlikely.
Ma'am.
All right. Do you know how the dog got away?
No, ma'am. All I know is when I left to work that morning, the dog was on the leash. When I came home, it wasn't on the leash. I spoke to Ms. Chan, asked what happened.
And what did she say?
She said she had opened up the gate to give both dogs because the other tenants that lived on the property had a pit bull that, if Ms. Chan may remember correctly, the first day that I went over there to look at the apartment before I moved in.
Just do me a favor. Just tell me what happened with your dog.
I asked what happened to the dog.
And she said?
She said that she let the dogs out to play and she opened up the gate so they could run around and they never came back.
What happened, Ms. Chan?
No, because I went out. I parked in my car in the backyard. When I go out, I go to get my car and I gotta go. So I opened my gate, I went, and the dog went too. They both went together. One is female, one's male.
So they were not on a leash?
No.
They were not on the
all.
lead?
No.
Okay.
Not at all.
And you didn't go after them?
No.
Right. I wouldn't go after them.
It's not my dog. Why should I go after them?
Absolutely right. What else do you want to tell me?
I would like to tell you that Mrs. Chan was totally comfortable with my dog being there. And once I come back from Oregon and found my dog, took him to the vet, took care of all that, and I still continued to come on weekends and visit. She had no problem with me helping her property. Her property was in pretty bad state of...
what does that have to do with your dog?
It's got to do with the fact that she was comfortable with me being there when I was helping out on her property. She was, before her denying that my dog was allowed to be there, she had no problem with my dog being there.
Just a second. You're not following, sir. She has no duty to run after your dog.
But she has the duty if she says it's okay for my dog to be in that yard, to allow it to be there while it's there.
Listen to me, sir. She has no duty to run after your dog.
You're right. unless she let him off his leash.
She says she didn't.
Of course she did. She's not going to admit to it now that I've got a $500 bill in front of her. Yeah, I guess not. She was
sure
pretty sure I
isn't.
wasn't going to sue her either. But the problem we have here is...
Listen, Slick, take care of your own dogs. If you have to go to Oregon, take your dog with you.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Madam, I can't tell what happened with this house. The house looks
Yeah.
like it's in deplorable condition.
The whole property is.
That's why he
Listen
hit.
to me. I'm speaking. I don't need you to help me.
You're right.
And later today,
He was incarcerated for 2 years. Then he became uncontrollable again, and he was getting physical with me, pushing me around, and he was getting really out of hand.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
James Newsom says his friend's ex-landlord, Lai Chan, allowed his dog to run away. Lai says James is homeless and he was squatting on her property.
Listen to me. I want to know if when you were going into her house, you banged into
I never
her house
went in
with
her
your truck.
house, and I did not hit her house.
Okay. When do you say he hit your house with his truck?
During the time he stayed in my backyard, and at night, because it's dark, he said he can't see it. He hit it, and the next morning I asked him to...
What date?
I don't have the date.
Well, why did you wait so long?
Because he's homeless.
Because I
I
filed
don't know
suit
where
against
he
her.
is.
No, it's because she countered her
You know?
suit after she received mine. Of course.
Probably true.
I went over there the other day after I found out she was suing me and took pictures of the only place she could possibly hit her house. And the house doesn't show that, I mean, the house is just in bad shape altogether, but I don't know how you could say if I hit it or I didn't hit it. I mean, it's just in bad shape. Although I did re-roof one of her houses that I have another suit against her for because she refused to pay for that. And I have pictures of the fact that the house she lives in has got a roof blowing off and a house next to it that's hers. I did the roof on, and I have not been paid for that.
What?
This is an estimate.
Madam, I can't tell what happened with this house. The house looks
Yeah.
like it's in deplorable condition.
The whole property is.
That's why he
Listen
hit.
to me. I'm speaking. I don't need you to help me.
You're right.
The house is in deplorable condition. I can't tell what he hit and what he didn't. He just said he didn't hit your house. You're not responsible for his dog. He's not responsible for your house.
Oh,
Mr.
you know what?
Mario
Check
moved
this
out?
out.
Yeah, it's
Mario
gone.
moved out?
Gone.
Good. Goodbye. Have a happy life.
And I knew you'd do that. That's all right, though.
Good.
That's all right.
Always excuse. Step out, please.
You did exactly what I thought you'd be. Come on, Hood. Let's go. That's why I should never come to this court. I knew she'd do that.
Case, custody of minor child, husband versus wife parties. 1. Petitioner, Mr. Mack 2. Respondent, Mrs. Mack Jennifer. Subject, custody of minor child, X, aged 5 years. Background, Mr. Mack, petitioner, and Mrs. Mack Jennifer, respondent, were married in 2018 and have a 5-year-old son, X. Due to irreconcilable differences and a breakdown in the marital relationship, the parties separated in 2023. Mr. Mack filed a petition for custody of their son, X, citing concerns over Mrs. Mack Jennifer's parenting abilities and her inability to provide a stable environment for the child. Petitioner's argument, Mr. Mack. Mr. A argues that he is the more suitable parent to have primary custody of their son. His reasons are as follows. 1. Stable environment. Mr. Mack A works as a senior manager at a reputable company and has a stable income that ensures financial security for his son. He resides in a well-maintained home in a family-oriented neighborhood, with close access to good schools and medical facilities. 2. Parental care. Mr. Mack claims that he has been the primary caregiver for their son during much of the marriage, as Mrs. Mack Jennifer worked long hours and was often absent due to her demanding job. He provided emotional and physical care for their son, including taking him to school, doctor's appointments, and extracurricular activities. 3. Psychological stability. Mr. A argues that Mrs. Mack Jennifer's emotional stability is questionable. He cites her history of erratic behavior, including periods of depression and substance abuse, which he believes would negatively affect the child's development. He contends that X has witnessed several incidents that have caused him distress and that the child needs a stable and nurturing environment, which Mr. Mack can provide. 4. Child's preference. Mr. Mack also claims that X has expressed a preference for living with him, stating that he feels more comfortable and secure in his father's care. 5. Safety concerns. Mr. Mack contends that Mrs. Mack Jennifer's new partner is involved in criminal activities, which raises concerns about the safety and well-being of their son in her care. He believes it would be detrimental to X to live in an environment where illegal activities are taking place.
Respondent's argument, Mrs. McJennifer, wife Mrs. McJennifer denies the allegations made by Mr. Mack and counters with her own points in support of her claim for primary custody. 1. Bond with child. Mrs. McJennifer asserts that she has a strong and loving bond with X, which has been evident since his birth. She believes that her role as a mother is irreplaceable and that the child should be raised by her, as the primary caregiver, especially in his formative years. 2. Work-life balance. Mrs. McJennifer acknowledges that her work schedule was demanding but contends that she has since reduced her working hours and is now able to dedicate more time to her child. She believes she can provide a stable home and adequate supervision for X moving forward. 3. Parental ability. Mrs. McJennifer denies having any history of substance abuse or mental instability. She argues that she has never been a danger to her child and has always ensured that X's emotional and physical needs were met. She has sought counseling and treatment for any personal issues in the past and is now in a better place to care for her son. 4. Stable home environment. Mrs. McJennifer resides in a well-maintained home with a secure and loving environment. She also points out that X's extended family, including grandparents, live nearby and are actively involved in his life, offering additional support. 5. Child's best interests. Mrs. McJennifer emphasizes that the child's best interests should be paramount, and she believes that maintaining X's relationship with both parents is crucial. She is willing to allow visitation rights to Mr. A but insists that full custody should remain with her. Conclusion: the court will consider the best interests of the child, X, in determining the custody arrangement. Factors such as the stability of each parent's home environment, the emotional and physical well-being of the child, and the involvement of both parents in the child's life will play a key role in the court's decision. The judge may also consider the child's preference, given his age, and will likely appoint a guardian ad litem or child psychologist to assess the child's emotional needs. Ruling: pending a full hearing, the court will schedule interviews with both parents and the child, along with an independent evaluation, to ensure a fair and informed decision is made regarding custody.